One of the things that people have asked me when playing Enlisted is how do you have fun? And this is a question I can actually relate to because most of the times when you play Enlisted you feel like grinds, especially when events come around. And in this video I'm going to talk about how you play Enlisted to have fun. So without further ado, let's get started. Of course, this video is made possible for the friends at Discord. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord, highly suggest that you do. And that said, let's get started. One of the first things I'll suggest to you is to pick your own tier. For me, everyone, and I highly suggest whoever is watching this video, is to pick tier 1. Tier 1 is one of those tiers in which everything is amazing, and one of the things about tier 1 that I really like is that everyone has bolt action rifles. And of course, most of you will be like, okay, bolt action rifles suck. I suck at bolt action rifles. But here's the thing about bolt action rifles. Everyone is playing fair and square, meaning there will be no STG-44s running around and wiping out the entire squad. There will only be, well, bolt-action rifles and SMGs that are not the best, meaning said assaulter or medic at this tier can be killed by one well-placed shot in the head, and that usually happens more than often than not, especially if the player is skilled. That said, the other thing that I really like about tier 1 are the tanks. The tanks are at this tier perfect. They're not too overpowered. They can be easily taken out, and if you know how to use tanks, you can also get kills, but it's not one of those tanks in which you just point and shoot and no skill and then everything dies. It's not like one of those tanks. That said, another thing is regarding the planes. The planes once again are not OP. The planes are essentially just pretty chill. If you know how to use a plane at this tier, you're pretty good. If you don't know how to use planes, then you're pretty much not guaranteed to get kills. Essentially, tier 1, in my opinion, is very skill based. It is also where most of the players are right now, especially the beginners, and this is where essentially most of the old players can essentially come down and fight against new players. Now, new players, I really actually do kind of feel sad for them, mainly because of the fact that they just started and they're getting the ropes. That said, for those players who've essentially played, well, tier 1s, tiers 2, tier 3, tiers 4, and tier 5, tier 1 might be a very good experience, mainly because of the fact that tier 5 right now is pretty much the opposite. And this video is kind of going into part 2 of why I think tier 5s, tiers 4s, and to a certain extent, anything above tier 3 is just pure hell. And it's pretty simple, actually, and that is the reason that tier 5s have too much explosives. I'm a person, personally, everyone is different, that likes to play intense games, and at the same time also play not so intense games. For example, I like to switch to tier 5 sometimes, but if I continuously be playing tier 5s, and I continuously have, well, my entire squad just killed by one HVAR, it's not that fun. Tier 1s for me is just chill, and at tier 1 I really feel like it's fun, everyone is having a fun time except for some of the new players, which I feel sad for, and overall in general it's fun. Unlike in tier 5 in which I think everyone is not having fun because of the amount of explosives, and of course I'm generalizing because every game is different. And overall what happens in tier 5 is that your entire squad just gets killed before they even see the battlefield. You have people who essentially use tanks and just gray zone and you can't really do anything about that. And of course the infantry is getting better along the way, but as of right now, tanks, planes are essentially killers. And while we're talking about vehicles, the vehicle situation is essentially spams. A good case in point was when I was playing Germany a few days ago, and what ends up happening was that I was blowing in a BF-109 to shoot down P-47s. After I shot my first one, another one came out, and I shot that one down, and after that, the third one came out, and after that, the fourth one came out, and after that, the fifth one came out, simultaneously. It was as if you can't kill one P-47, you have to kill every player on the team, and everyone's just going to use a P-47. And what ends up happening if no one is in the air as the German team is that the P-47 just rains down hell. The exact same thing could be said about, well, pretty much every other team. If you essentially have a player who is essentially using HVARs, or essentially a player who knows how to use the 250 kilogram bombs on some of the planes, which actually is not hard to use if you know how to fly a plane, then everyone is just going to have a bad experience, mainly because of the fact that everyone's just getting blown to bits before having the fun part, which is to shoot and have fun in Enlisted. So that's that. In my personal opinion, I think tier 1 is the best tier, and for those players who haven't played tier 1, even though they max tier 5, I highly suggest that you go back to tier 1 and have some fun in tier 1. Because as of right now, the tier 5 situation is abysmal. That said, without further ado, I'll see you in tier 1, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.